immigration, the system that brought you me. But it's still good, and I promise that won't happen again. Now, immigration has been dominating the news all week long as a caravan of migrants from Central America continues to head north. And despite it being 1,000 miles and possibly months away, Trump has made it a centrepiece of his closing argument heading into the midterms.
At this very moment, large, well-organized caravans of migrants are marching toward our southern border. Some people call it an invasion. It's like an invasion. A lot of young men, strong men, and a lot of men that maybe we don't want in our country. I don't want them in our country. And women don't want them in our country. Women want security. Men don't want them in our country, but the women do not want them. Women want security.
Wow. Young, strong men are invading our country and coming from our women. That is such old-timey racism. I'm genuinely amazed that image didn't automatically turn black and white as he talked, like Pleasantville in reverse. Now, this week, Trump has been threatening immigration actions ranging from sending 15,000 troops to the border to ending birthright citizenship. And look, it is hard to know what the president will or even can do going forward. So tonight, instead of focusing on hypotheticals, I thought it might be useful to look backwards at something he absolutely did do concerning immigrants: family separation. It was part of his zero-tolerance policy, where parents crossing the border were locked up, prosecuted and had their children taken away. The story dominated the news back in June with distressing images of kids in cages and shelters, Melania's very cool jackets reading, "I really don't care, do you?" and, of course, this moment.
I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome?
Yes, he did, yes. Yeah, Corey Lewandowski said womp womp. And if there is any justice, that will be carved on his gravestone. And when he arrives at the pearly gates, the first thing he'll hear will be, "Oh, hi, Corey. I've been waiting a long time to say this to you." Womp womp. Now, after a national outcry and court challenges, the president signed an order reversing course, and the story kind of faded from the headlines. But it is really worth revisiting because a number of government reports recently came out giving us a much clearer picture of what was actually happening. And while it seemed malicious and chaotic at the time, at every step it was even worse than you might assume. So let's look at two major aspects of family separation: how it was done and why. And let's start with the how, because you may remember heartbreaking stories of parents unsure where their children had been taken. But when Alex Azar, Secretary of Health and Human Services, was asked about this, he reassured everyone that there was nothing to worry about.
There is no reason why any parent would not know where their child is located. I could, at keystrokes, I sat on the ORR portal with just basic keystrokes within seconds, could find any child in our care for any parent.
You know, it's not every day that you see a man testify with the goal of convincing people he has access to a lot of kids on his computer. Seriously, guys, just a few taps on the old keyboard and it's Kid City on this thing. Pretty much the second I open my computer, boom, I'm up to my neck in children. And yes, I heard how that sounds, and you know what? I like it. But while Azar may have known where the kids in his custody were, that was only one piece of the puzzle. The critical information that allowed kids to be matched with parents was compiled by a different department, Homeland Security. And an Inspector General report found that their data was not just incomplete and inconsistent, but that each step of this process was vulnerable to human error, increasing the risk that a child could be lost in the system, which is terrible. You should be able to lose children in a government system as easily as in a Chuck E. Cheese ball pit. I'm sorry, we're going to have to call off the search, Mrs. Donaldson. Ralphie's lost to the balls now. In fact, while we've been told that the government separated around 2,600 children and that around 220 kids are still being held away from their parents, we actually can't say for sure whether either of those numbers are accurate. Just 2 weeks ago, the government apparently found